Everybody signing in. We just want to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Letitia Tish Benberry. Everybody calls me Tish. And we're just so excited to have so many people. It's awesome. This is great. Thank you for being here. This is Girls Health First Community Forum. What about our girls? And so we want to welcome you, and so glad that you're able to join us, those of you in person. And I understand there are some people that are going to be looking at the video, so we're glad to have them as well join us. We're brought here because we have a heart for girls. Amen, right? Woohoo! Okay, so, and in today's society, our girls, our daughters, our nieces, I have great nieces, are under attack. And this society and this culture has really come after them in ways that I never even imagined. And some facts: most teen pregnancies are fathered by a man who's older than 20. Okay, so why is this parental notice so important? The average age of a girl entering sex trafficking in the United States is 13. Okay, all right, these are girls, these are not women, right? There's a widespread problem of pornography in our society, unhealthy portrayals of girls and relationships on TV, and we won't even talk about what just was on television. What was it last week? The Emmys, or what was it, the Grammys? A tremendous pressure is put on our girls to fit in and to be on social media and to be accepted. And unfortunately for some of them, they are very, very vulnerable. And they're looking for love in the wrong places sometimes. And I didn't realize, I did abstinence education for a lot of years, that the thing to do was to send pictures, and not nice pictures either. And it's kind of like, that's the way we get to know each other. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. So we really wanted to add to this whole topic the importance of parents. How important the parents are. So our legislators are considering this bill that would repeal the Illinois Parental Notice of Abortion Act. It would allow anyone, even a 15-year-old, to be taken for abortion without her parents' knowing at all about this. It's not consent. It's not consent. It's notification. So it's not even as high as the consent. Okay, and what can we do to protect our girls? And that's what we're here about. So our speakers have great ideas about these topics and how we can make a positive difference. Tonight we'll hear from anti-trafficking expert Renee Polino, and we'll hear from, she founded this cafe. This is her cafe. It's a non-for-profit which helps survivors of trafficking. And so we'll hear from also State Representative Amy Grant. But first I want to introduce the chair of the Illinois Citizens for Ethics and the Girls Health First, Mary Louise Hargaba.
Great, thank you so much. Does everybody have a fact sheet? Okay, great. So I'm going to be using that and referring to that. You know, I'm passionate about the safety of our girls because in my old life, before I was a mom, I spoke to more than 180,000 teens and young adults about sexuality issues in 36 states. And I can tell you that the stories I heard from them about being exploited, especially our girls and especially by older men, were just heartbreaking. And sometimes not wanting to tell a parent, not because the parent was abusive, but simply because they felt embarrassed. You know, we need to have parental notice, and I'm really passionate about that because of what I've seen in my work with young people all over the United States. It's very, very important. So as Tish mentioned, 32% of teen mothers ages 15 to 17 are impregnated by men older than 20. And I heard about this so much when I was working with teen girls, and they were sharing with me their stories after my presentations. And repealing parental notification, honestly, it would allow older men and sex traffickers to use abortion to conceal evidence of their sexual abuse of minor girls. And we must fight for our daughters. We cannot let that stand. So the current Illinois Parental Notice of Abortion Act already provides procedures for girls who are in extenuating circumstances. For example, if a girl is being abused, there's a blanket waiver for minors who attest to being abused so that she would not need to notify a parent or legal guardian. And there's also then a judicial waiver for those who simply do not wish to inform their parents. Now, people who, the legislators who are in favor of this law, or excuse me, repealing this law, this pending legislation to repeal parental notice, what they say is that it's too burdensome for girls to get to a courtroom. And there's a judicial bypass procedure. Actually, there's an organization that's in place to assist girls with this. But also, the very best moment on the internet in 2021 occurred recently. How many of you are familiar with the guy who looked like a cat when he was on the Zoom call? Do you remember that? He's like, "Can you hear me, Judge? You know, I can hear you. You know, there's a filter, but I'm ready to go through with it. I'm here live, I'm not a cat." Remember that guy? You know, it's so funny, right? But that illustrates, like, they're doing these hearings now online. So it is not a burden anymore. It's not, I really feel it never was a great burden, but even that argument against parental notification has now dropped away. So if anybody says, well, it's too burdensome, well, remember the cat guy? You know, he was just doing that hearing online. So these hearings can be even conducted online. But the law is very effective. So since 2013, when parental notice took effect in Illinois, according to the statistics by the Illinois Department of Health, there have been about 1,000 fewer abortions on minor girls every year. So that's 1,000 fewer girls who are being saved from carrying that secret, having that trauma, you know, not telling a parent, and then, you know, having to live with that, going through that experience alone. I mean, what the burden that is being put on minor girls by allowing them to be taken by somebody else for an abortion without a parent or guardian knowing, it's just crazy. And there was a recent poll, actually, that was done in the first week of March by the Terrence Group that showed that 72% of Illinoisans are in favor of keeping the Illinois Parental Notice of Abortion law. And support was even higher among people of color. So among minority women, it was 74%, and among minority men, it was 76% who were in favor of keeping the Parental Notice of Abortion law. And in Illinois, it's worth noting that a nurse can't give a minor an aspirin, nor can a girl get her ears pierced without the permission, not just the notification of a parent. So think of how much greater in magnitude an abortion is than getting your ears pierced. You know, it's unfathomable. And the thing is, too, that parents who don't know about the abortion are unable to provide appropriate aftercare for their girls. So right now we are very into concussion protocols, right? We're concerned about when a boy has a concussion, he should not go back into high school sports quickly, right? And let's face it, most concussions are on boys, right? All abortions are on girls. Why are we not concerned equally about the after effects and providing aftercare for those girls? You know, those girls probably will certainly need extra support. They might need counseling. And especially if this is a medical abortion, ensuring that she's not at school or another public place when she is, you know, passing the fetal remains. And anybody who has had a miscarriage knows how traumatic that is. I've had 3 myself, and it's so hard to go through that. And I just cannot imagine having a minor girl facing that without the support of a loving parent or guardian to help her. And as Tish mentioned, the average age of entry into sex trafficking is 13. So our girls deserve every safeguard against abuse that society can offer. So we need to put girls' safety over predators' preferences. Right. And we need to tell our state representatives and our state senators, these are the people who represent us in Springfield, we need to tell them to vote no on these bills. HB 1797, that HB stands for House Bill. So House Bill 1797. So if you go to ilga.gov, ILGA stands for Illinois General Assembly. ilga.gov, and you can go to legislator lookup, and you will find, you can just put in your address if you don't know who your state representative is, and if you're not fortunate enough to have Representative Amy Grant as your representative, who stands with us in protecting our girls. But if you, it's important to call your state representative or even schedule a Zoom meeting with them. You know, you can do it in your own home, and if you know of other constituents who also would like to speak to them on this issue, that would be great. Gather 5 or 10 constituents. Our website is www.girlshealthfirst.com, and there you can also click on a button to find your legislator to contact them about this issue. So I really appreciate all of you being here to find out about it, and please spread the word. And we have these yard signs which you can take with you afterward. You can take one, or if you have like-minded friends, you can take a whole bunch. But we really encourage you to help raise awareness and get the word out. It drives people to the website, girlshealthfirst.com, where there's a lot of information about this. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and I'm going to turn things back over to Tish.
Thank you so much, Mary Louise. I really appreciate that. That was really good information. Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you. I got to remember, we're masking up, masking down. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary Louise. Trying to remember. Okay, we've got, next up is State Representative Amy Grant. She's going to say some words to us. She's a teacher by training. She also served on the DuPage County Board. She represents this district. You guys are really, whoa, that's awesome. And shares our concern for protecting parents' rights and girls' safety. She serves on the Human Services Committee of the Illinois House of Representatives, and that's the committee that will hear this bill. How about that? So we need some pressure on these people, right, to really let them know, don't do this to our girls. We need to protect them. Please welcome State Representative Amy Grant.
Thank you for having me. I was in Springfield all day today on Jude Crim. I missed my human, what did they call it? Health. I can never remember. I was a county board member, and we called it Health and Human Services. They call it Human Services in Springfield. But anyhow, there is a big hubbub. This bill, this particular bill was not called today. I thought possibly it might be called, but it wasn't. Maybe, hopefully, they just may not call it. I don't know. Possibly it may not be called. And I think this is worse than even the abortion bill that was passed in 2019, because they, on the other side of the aisle, will stand up and they will talk about children continually and talk about their young girls and all of their caucus, whether they're now they have all kinds of caucuses. It's the Progressive Caucus, it's the Black Caucus, it's the Latino Caucus. They're all not even in together on this. But the idea will be that they will vote on it, and they will vote to pass it, and we can just do the best that we can. It seems almost out of this world that in 2019 we voted on a bill that you couldn't buy a cigarette unless you were 21 years old. You can't get a tattoo. As Mary Lou says, you can't have aspirin, but we allow our girls, one of the time they become young women, which could be 5th grade. I mean, think about that. And then think about what's going on at the border. And if we don't think that's not going to affect these, and even if they're immigrants, even if they're just young girls who have come across the river, and we're now responsible for them. And we all have hearts, and we all want to protect them. And what really bothers me is that abortion clinics should say, no, you don't have parental notification, you can't do this. That's what should be happening. If they had any heart or they cared at all, they would be saying no. Not only does this young girl have to go through an abortion and she's forced to do it, or she may not be forced to do it but inadvertently forced, the health of her womb could stay with her for the rest of her life. So many abortions, endometriosis, I know a woman, her name, I heard her talk, her name is Dr. Bello, and she has an organization called More to Life, and she empowers those who have been human trafficked. She actually was human trafficked, and she talked about, first of all, having an abortion, and then second of all, being human trafficked. And she just wished so much that the abortion clinics that they were taking her to would have asked for parental notification, so maybe her parents could have found her. So she does get out of this human trafficking, and she is a lawyer, and she, is a success story. But one thing that she doesn't have, and one thing that she always wanted, was a family of 3. That's gone because the amount of abortions that she had. So yes, she could be a successful lawyer, but really what she wanted was to be a family of 3. That's gone. And they just, I don't think the people in the state legislature really understand or care about these stories, or they don't, I think that they connect this immediately to women's right to choose. But this isn't women's right to choose. So maybe we can make some headway. Maybe it won't be called. Maybe we have a lot of, I think there's like, I don't know how many slips of opposition, over 6,000. So hopefully we can prevail. I'm going to take one of these signs. I urge you to take one of these signs. And if you need to reach out to me, please be my guest. It's just Amy Grant. You'll find me, state rep. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, State Representative Grant. That was really good information, and we're going to hope and pray that maybe it won't be called, right? That's what we prefer. But anyway, we're really glad to have an opportunity to hear our next speaker, and Renee Paulino is the CEO and founder of My Half of the Sky, which we're meeting tonight, and she is this is a social justice coffee shop, and it addresses social concerns and systemic injustice through opportunity. She's passionate about creating hope and bringing healing to women with obstacles to employment due to poverty, addictions, trafficking, and or life as a refugee. So she believes in opportunity for women, and relationships are really essential to help women. And so I'm really excited to present to you Renee, who's worked over 20 years with grassroots organizations to remind men and women there's hope after trauma or hardship. Come on up. Come on, Renee. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's just really a joy and pleasure for being invited and to be with people like you who actually care so deeply about these issues. And I know everyone's on different aisles of the fence. And so I really hope, and my hope today is that we bring some facts to you, information, so that we can together, whatever side of the fence you are, politically or religiously, that we can all agree that young girls need to be protected. Yes. And I know that I have incredible friends and people in this community who have supported us here at My Half of the Sky, and it's just been an honor to work with all sorts of different backgrounds and people who can just agree that human trafficking has to end. Yes. This is not acceptable in the 21st century. Modern day slavery must be fought, and we must be reaching across aisles on these topics. Right. And so that's my hope, that I can give you some facts, no matter if you're pro-choice or pro-life. The issue at hand is that minors are vulnerable. Yeah. And you heard it twice, and I'm going to say it a third time because it's true. The average age of a girl who's trafficked in the United States is 13 years old. There hasn't been one woman who's worked for me or I've been friends with who's a survivor who hasn't had numerous abortions as minors. One of my friends, her first abortion was 8 years old, the first of 5. So it's really important to understand the facts that as they're developing emotionally, their brains, I mean, we have really good laws in the United States to protect the vulnerable. We have incredible laws that care about civilians. We have laws, like you said, like, young minors shouldn't be able to go to a tattoo parlor and go get a tattoo. We have laws saying our children can't just get on a plane and go across the country without my consent. Why? Because we live in an incredible country with beautiful, amazing laws that care about people. And we have an incredible community here in Illinois, especially, that I know I've experienced the heart and the love and the passion and care for women. And so it's been a joy just having all sorts of people under this roof and really collectively using our voice and focusing on what we can agree on. Okay, and I think that's the problem sometimes, is we're so focused on what we don't agree upon, and that's concerning, because if you're married, like, who among us agrees with even our own spouses or our best friends, our parents, so to have an expectation that we have to be friends and we can only work together if we agree on everything is an unrealistic task. And so the facts are, minors need to be protected. It is a surgery, it is a procedure, and it's really important that they get the medical attention they need aftermath as well, so that they can recover and be cared for. Human trafficking is a serious issue, and traffickers should never get a clear path to further exploiting girls. We shouldn't make it easy for them. We shouldn't create laws to make them have a walk in the park. I have one former employee whose mom could not find her daughter for 6 years. She searched everywhere, the FBI, the police. In the meantime, in those years, she had 3 abortions. Had the laws protected her and said, hey, you can't have an abortion without parental consent, I promise you that mom would have found her daughter a lot sooner. And so it's really important to understand that we have incredible laws that are there for a reason. The purpose of laws to protect citizens, especially the vulnerable. Young girls who are trafficked and exploited. And the way trafficking looks in America particularly is they become the boyfriend. So a lot of times we think they're stolen or they're taken or some other means. But what happens is in human trafficking, we saw the first case. They create these trauma bonds. And we see the first case in 1973. Have you heard of Stockholm Syndrome? It happened in Stockholm, Sweden in 1973 when these 4 hostages grew affection for their captors. And psychologists and police and the government were really shocked that not only did they not start working with their captors against the police to rescue them, they refused to go to court and prosecute them. Interesting behavior. This is how the brain works under trauma. It doesn't make sense, first of all. That's one thing we have to understand, that when girls say we've been abused, we shouldn't say things like, oh, but why are you saying something 20 years later? Why? Because trauma doesn't make sense. And so when we have young girls being manipulated and coerced by traffickers who claim to be their boyfriend, who love on them, shower them, emotionally coerce them, and control them. There's usually no chains or hidden in dark rooms. These are girls who are emotionally coerced and controlled. And none of us would respond any differently. It's just the truth. That's what the studies show. And that's why human trafficking hits all sorts of, it doesn't matter if you're wealthy, you're poor, white, black, Hispanic. And as a former, a young girl who was abused herself growing up, it's really easy to convince girls to be silent. And so this law is really important. It's really important to have some accountability so that traffickers do not continue to further exploit and abuse young girls. Because you have to understand the mind of a trafficker. Not only do they look for the vulnerable, they're sick-minded. In fact, you can't even fathom the clever ways they will exploit girls. They will go to AA meetings, pretending they're recovering, because they know the vulnerable are there. They will go to mental health hospitals. They will find girls coming out of facilities like that. They're extremely clever, and they will use every loophole possible to further harm our girls. And all girls are our girls. And so we really need to advocate for all minors, no matter whether we know them, whether across the globe, right here in Illinois. And so it's really important to understand the facts, to focus on the information, and make decisions based on what we know to be true. And these are just true facts that we can all agree on, and we can reach across the aisle on in order to protect our girls.
Yeah.
And so I know we live in an incredible community. I know everyone, just even evident is everyone's here in the room, that this is a really important topic, and people want to align on these topics, the things that we actually can agree on. And so I appreciate your time. I'm going to end with this quote. I'm sure you've heard it. Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing. Okay, and so we don't want evil to triumph. We want to combat human trafficking, and the way we do it is by creating laws that protect them. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want a question and answer period? Okay.
Renee, are you taking questions?
Okay, yeah, you might want to. Okay. So we're going to do a question and answer if we have people with questions that they'd like to. And if there's a piece regarding the medical issue in terms of my background, I worked as OB nurse for years and taught childbirth classes. So if there's some questions relating to some of what's going on with the procedure and what some of the side effects, I would be glad to offer some. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So are there any questions? We won't take a ton, but we'll take a few. Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
What does the law say? And what was the other word? Informing?
Notification.
Notification. So
Why don't you-
consent and notification, what's the difference there? What does the law say now?
Okay, great question. Hang on a second. Unmask. Okay, so the law currently requires notification. In other states, consent is required, but currently in Illinois, only notification.
Do you have to go to court for that?
So what happens is the girl just notifies the parent. Oftentimes, like what Planned Parenthood does is they have a form that the girl can take home, and then her parent signs it saying, "I've been notified." So that's typically how it's done. Or they might even call, like, "Hey, your daughter's here once," that type of thing. And I think it has to be done. I'm embarrassed because I can't remember. Is it 48 hours? Thank you. Dawn knows. So 48 hours in advance of the procedure, the parent needs to be notified. So, but it is not consent. That's right. It's not even permission. It's a lower standard than an ear piercing or a tattoo, right? It's just notification that's required in Illinois. Some other states require consent, but in Illinois, the law does not require consent. And as I said, it's pretty lenient because there are two exemptions, two ways to be exempt from that requirement. But the law has been really great for saving, these vulnerable girls like Renee was talking about thus far. So the exemptions, and you'll see it on this sheet. So there are procedures for girls in extenuating circumstances to obtain an abortion without an adult family member being notified. It's either one, a judicial waiver for those not wishing to inform their parents, and two, a blanket waiver for minors who attest to being abused. That would be abused at home. So, but again, even so, it still is very effective. There was another question, Alice. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Because the abortion issue is so volatile, and because there's so much in our country now that's so volatile, has your experience been, when you put this out and somebody knocks on your door and wants to engage it, that once they kind of understand the concern is for the minor girls, do you find that they're more amenable? And then the second thing, it would be really, really helpful, because I would consider putting that, if I could have more of a bullet point so I could memorize this and then kind of be prepared, because it's just such it's such a divisive time in this country that.
Yes. And Renee or Amy, you can feel free to chip in. So the first question was, I'm just repeating it because for the people live streaming, because I couldn't pass you the mic. So the first question was, if I have this in my yard, and has anybody knocked on my door and said anything? And nobody has, but what I have gotten is people going to the website. So the sign is, some people object because it's too ambiguous, but the idea is that we want to educate. And so it drives people to the website where there's a lot of information about this. So, so hands-off parental notice, girlshealthfirst.com. It helps people go to the website, and that's an easy way to just say, hey, go to the website and get educated. Did you know that almost 3 out of 4 Illinoisans are in favor of this? And so go to the website and get educated, because girls are being trafficked and are being abused by older men and are at risk. And the point that I often make too is that parental notice offers a good checkpoint. So it's a checkpoint, it's a way to make it more difficult for predators and traffickers to continue to abuse our girls and to conceal evidence of their crimes. So that's sort of the bottom line of what I say. And then people are like, well, that's not going to happen to my daughter. Well, you'd be surprised. And Renee was just talking about that, actually. So did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Renee? Or is that okay? Great. All right. Yes, Dawn?
I just think it would be interesting to address the fact that with the change of the laws, especially here in the state of Illinois, we have the most permissive laws for abortion in the country, which makes it more difficult, or actually easier for people in surrounding states like Wisconsin and Indiana and Missouri and Iowa, because their laws are more difficult for people to get abortions.
Yes.
So they're more likely to bring those girls here.
Yes.
To make it happen.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, Dawn's point was that Illinois has extremely permissive laws on abortion already, including late-term abortions and lower standards of of sanitation and things like that for clinics. And so because of that, people often come over the border from neighboring states. And when I grew up in Wisconsin, and at that time, Illinois' parental notification law was not in effect, and girls were being taken over to Illinois for abortions. So if we get rid of this law, it's not just putting Illinois girls at risk, it's putting girls at risk all over the Midwest. So great question. Maybe should we take one more? And anybody who has questions for Representative Grant or Renee as well. Yes?
What's the forecast on the voting in the House and the Senate? I mean, is this a close race?
It's very close. It's very close, and it's going to be very difficult, actually, to stop it, because there's a lot of money behind it. There's a lot of money behind repealing parental notice. There's a lot of money. It's like David and Goliath. So it's going to be very difficult to stop. But they have the money, but we have the people. So we need to, the only way that we're going to be able to stop this is by getting as many people involved as possible from as many communities. We need communities of color. We need, pro-choice people who are, also in favor of parental notice, because that's a huge percentage. That's about half. We need everybody to be involved because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to stop. So we need to get people involved in their communities and let their legislators know that a vote for repeal is a vote for helping sex traffickers. And we just need to boil it down to that. That is the point. So do you have any thoughts on that, Renee, or anything, or Representative Grant?
I don't know if I don't even know if I need a microphone. Can you hear me in the back?
For the video.
Okay, all right, here we go. All right, I have to say that I think the way this was done, Mary Louise, is brilliant, because it says nothing on this sign about abortion. And immediately when you use the word abortion, immediately women are going to get all uptight and wired up and say, no, we have our choices. Women should have their choices. This is our uterus. It's not men's. Go on and on and on, how they do. And so this is actually really brilliant, because people are going to say, oh, what is this? What's going on? So Mary Louise is absolutely right when she says that it's us. It's the people that will possibly be able to stop this. I don't know exactly what the mindset of the legislators will be on my side of the aisle, and I know Renee doesn't like to talk about this in a Republican or Democratic way because it's really not. But with this vote, it will be, unfortunately. And there are men on the other side of the aisle that are more likely not to vote for this because they have daughters, and men like to and fathers like to protect their daughters. So more than likely, Ralph Riviera, he's with Illinois Pro Family, and he keeps a good temperature of what is happening in Springfield with legislators. He's like a lobbyist that goes around and talks, and I'll keep he'll keep me updated and Mary Louise updated on. Like I said, it has not come to committee. And I don't know, maybe it just won't, but it's a brilliant way that she has put this forward, and we'll see.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Grant. So I just want to encourage people again, you can look up your legislator at ilga.gov. I should have put that on the sheet, but there wasn't space, so much stuff to put on there. But ilga.gov, and then you go to legislator lookup, and that's where you can find who's representing you in Springfield. Oh, one of our teens is. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just wondering, since this isn't an issue that's just will affect Illinois girls, like it'll affect all the surrounding states, is there a way to get people from those other states involved in fighting it too? Because, is there a way to get more support by bringing in the other states since?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, can the other states help us? The thing is, I don't know if our legislators care about people in other states, though, right? So they probably care more about just being reelected, right? So if we help them understand, and as Amy said, we need to change the minds or help legislators who are pro-choice to see this isn't about Republican or Democrat, pro-life or pro-choice. This is about protecting our girls, and that's the takeaway from this. So we are a big tent. The Girls Health First is a big tent. We are women of differing viewpoints who agree on protecting our daughters. So, and I want to thank some of the Girls Health First women who are here tonight who have been so helpful. Some of them are actually on spring break. I thought spring break was next week. But anyways, Gina, for example, has been a huge help to me. So thank you, Gina. And Joe, who's doing our live stream, and many of you who are watching. But I thank all the Girls Health First women who've been involved and who have come to Springfield with us before. So I want to say thank you to them. Yes, and Representative Grant.
One thing that might help. Republicans are going to vote no on this. That's just a given, and that's the way it is. But there are some Democratic men who do feel differently about abortion. And if you wanted to take the time and look up, their phone numbers, it's right there on ILGA, I-L-G-A. You can just go to state rep members or state senate, but state rep members, and look up all the men and call their offices and say, hey, listen, bring it up. Do you have a daughter? Are you not worried about her? It may do some good.
Well, it could be touching
Just
women too. If it's going to be a party thing, then wouldn't we better focus on the ones that we feel are going to vote yes and kind of reach out to them?
well, men are. I hate to. I mean, the women are harder. The men. There are some men who did not vote for the abortion bill. It's the women who were really, really hard-nosed about this because they believe in their rights. Period. And there's no changing that idea. And as much as we argued and carried on with them, you can just see it. It's no changing that idea. As a matter of fact, let me just tell you, I don't know if I should tell you this. This is kind of heartbreaking. Right before the abortion bill was, I call it the abortion bill. They called it some health act. Yeah, exactly. Reproduction Health Act. Trying to.
Tell them what it did. It eliminated.
Oh,
it eliminated a lot of the. It allowed.
It allows for you to have an abortion up till the time. Exactly. It allows you to have an abortion up to the time the baby is born. And then they also eliminated letting nurse practitioners give abortions.
It permits that.
It permits that to happen. They also eliminated paperwork. So there was, some things that were eliminated, but
And the baby has no rights until they're born.
right. And I mean, ultrasounds should be allowed. They're not. I hate to have to say it. It's just a big money-making business. And they set up a big abortion clinic on the border of Illinois and Missouri, and they're just raking in the dough. That's not a nice thing to say. And I lost my track. What was I going to say?
Let's see. I think persuading legislators. But one thing is, we do want people to contact Representative Tara Costa Howard. So if you live,
Oh, she'll be mad.
if you live east of Main Street, your state rep, if you're in the Glen Ellen area, is Representative. Oh wait, let me say this on here. Your state rep, if you live east of Main Street, is Representative Tara Costa Howard, and she would like to hear from you. So you should contact her, because if she is your state representative, I encourage you to contact her and, try to set up a Zoom meeting or, just urge her to vote no. So she would like to hear from you on this bill because she really cares about human trafficking issues, she says. So let's help to educate her. Let's help to educate her. And, but every state rep really needs to hear from their constituents on this. It's so important. So anyway, any other thoughts, Representative Renee? So, well, thank you so much. I'm so inspired to be at this wonderful cafe that Renee created, and this incredible nonprofit of helping, women after trauma, and I'm just uplifted by it. So I've always wanted to meet Renee Paulino. I think she is like the most incredible person in Wheaton. I'm not kidding. So I want to thank Renee. And Tish is going to close us out, right? And Tish, thank you. Thank you. You've been an incredible MC, so thank you.
So we want to just thank everyone for coming and grab some signs, right? I gave all mine away. I'm going to grab a few more, and that's okay. This topic is just so powerful, and I know it's considered divisive, but we're talking about minors. Mm-hmm. Keep hitting that, minors. Okay, just say that over and over every time but it's minors. So we're not talking about a woman, we're talking about a minor. And we love our girls. They really deserve to be protected. So thank you all for being here, and we'll be glad to, we're going to hope and pray that they won't bring it up for the vote. But we can sure let our voices be heard. This has been a topic that's been, been with my dad's organization that he founded since I was 85, I think, when he founded. So we're really working on trying to make sure that this is a topic that we can talk about. But this area is minors, and that's why we can really speak to it. So thank you all so much. Thank you. Okay, God bless. Okay.